Hey everybody, this is Chris with JDG Gaming, and today we're actually doing a team draft against some players from the Going Optimal server, Ryan Spain's server, and we're excited to do this kind of content. We're also excited to engage with another Cube community. Think that this is going to be a really good time, and yeah, I'm going to be walking you through my draft. We're drafting the cube that we designed, the JDG cube, so obviously we have a level of comfort with it. So we'll see how that pans out. Um, right now, the cards that I'm looking at as being the most first pickable are probably Luminous Broodmoth. This card single-handedly has kind of revolutionized the white section. It's excellent in aggro or mid-range, and it does some really spicy stuff with sacrifice effects. It's just really, really potent. Not to mention that it's just a 3/4 flyer for 4. I don't really like to start with a card like Frenzy because it's pretty all in. And Vivian Monster's Advocate, Nissa, I think at 5 is probably a better Planeswalker, but uh, this Vivian is just um, incredible. You can do some really combo-esque stuff with this card. I tend to play black, but there's literally only Languish in the pack. I'm going to go ahead and take Broodmoth here just because it kind of suits my play style. And green has so many first pickable cards that I think there's a decent chance that someone else is going to end up heavily in green. So, and ideally we'll wheel the Adanto Vanguard. Okay, so I absolutely love Midnight Reaper. It's one of my favorite Magic cards of all time. Um, so I'm very tempted to take that. As far as other power cards, I think I'm probably just going to end up taking Swords here. Um, Stay White. It's one of the most efficient removal spells of all time. Um, and there's enough white in these packs that if it doesn't really get touched too much by other people, we might just end up playing mono white aggro. Wheeling the Midnight Reaper would be sweet, especially if we kind of see that black white is sort of generally open, but I think we're just gonna keep cutting white. So we're not married to being a creature deck. I'm continuing to not really see a whole lot in terms of like black cards are really, yeah, it looks like green's getting picked up on a little bit as well. So Search for Azcanta is obviously just like a straight control card. Um, but we're pick 3 and we're kind of starting to get a sense of what's going on here. And I see a Wrath and Search for Azcanta. So, and Sphinx's Rev, it kind of feels like if somebody had decided to be control at this point. I don't think all 3 of these cards would be here, although I guess there really only has been 2 picks. But Doomscar is essentially an Azorius gold card, so I'd rather take the card that's more likely to get taken. So let's take Search. Looks like blue-white might be open. It's just going to kind of depend on what flavor of blue-white comes to us. It's also possible that we just keep seeing good red cards and what we think we're doing starts to dry up and then we just end up having to jump ship because, I mean, picking up like a Chandra and wheeling the Soul Scar Mage or something like that would have been nice. Boros aggro is super, super successful in our cube. I don't know why I have an aversion to drafting it. It's definitely not for, lack of it being fun. I just usually try to stick to a monocolor. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we have a white 1-drop. And we also have Sedgemoor Witch. Although Sedgemoor Witch is so new, I don't know how highly people are rating that card. I haven't seen a lot of black up to this point in general. I'm seeing, I mean, this is a really sweet archetypal card, but I haven't seen a whole lot of black up to this point. And I mean, Isamaru is just a 1-drop, but I don't know. I like playing white aggro, and it kind of seems like there's a good chance that we're going to end up there. I'm going to take it. I might end up regretting this pick, but continuing to not see black cards. So I think we just want to stay out of black altogether. So then the question kind of becomes, is leaning in the tokensy direction good? It can be if we end up red-white, which it's starting to look like we very easily could. I like the tokens. The other thing is, though, that we could just take Supreme Will. We kind of take two picks like completely out of contention in the event that we end up playing this card. I'm going to take the land. We're going to have to make a decision pretty soon, though, about what we're doing, I think. All right, well, there's yet another white 1-drop. Yeah, it's a bummer that black is not open. Otherwise, I would 100% be doing this. Ammersturm Predator is very powerful. It's probably not as good as Falcon Wrath Aristocrat is for, cubes that can play that just because of the haste, but this thing just gets so out of control so quickly. You really don't even need a very strong sacrifice theme in your deck to make this completely worthwhile because it just grows every single turn and has stapled on graveyard hate while it's doing it. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So there's only 6 of us. So this made it all the way around the table. And so did Drawn from Dreams, but I mean, who knows how much people actually value that card. I'm seeing some like blue-red control-y cards, but I don't think pivoting into blue-red is something that we really want to do at this point. I'm just going to take the 1-drop. Okay, well, yeah, white aggro is super open. If, Glorybound Initiate is a pretty good 2-drop, but Adanto Vanguard is just like absolutely premium. It's kind of an embarrassment of riches here. Ultimately, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of 3 of these cards will wheel. Metallic Mimic almost certainly will, and if we end up human heavy enough, I'd play it. Maybe nobody takes the Heart of Kirin. I don't know. Heart of Kirin is obviously better if you have Planeswalkers, but it can also just be kind of excellent as a backup plan against control. I mean, I'm going to take the Vanguard and just keep cutting white. It's possible that I should have taken the Frenzy there and ended up, Boros, even splashing Frenzy with a really low curve is truly, excellent. But here's some blue tempo cards that might just not be particularly popular right now. I mean, a card like this, you could play a white aggro deck, splashing a little bit of blue for some permission and things like Chart a Course that are just really efficient card advantage tools. Obviously, Workite Marauder. The Midnight Reaper did not make it around the table and haven't seen a lot of black, so we're definitely going to stay away from that. I think I'm just going to go with Mikaeus. This card can really, blue-red control, I think, was definitely potentially on the menu here. But at this point, I think we're just sticking with this. Okay, the Doomscar did not come back, so I think navigating out of control ended up being 100% where we wanted to be. Now, I guess the question is, do we stay white or do we pick up Sin Prodder, which is a pretty excellent card? I think I'm just gonna stay white. Sin Prodder's good, but I'd rather play straight mono white if I can. Well, it's kind of looking like we're not going to be able to strictly play white. It seems possible. Traxxas is kind of whatever. White decks can play it the most easily and make it work. And Earthshaker Kenra is a good 2-drop, but I have just kind of repeatedly refused to learn my lesson, and I'm going to try to draft responsibly today. If you're going to play a 2-color aggro deck, you absolutely need to slam your lands. Even if there's something in the pack that like looks pretty unreplaceable, unless it's truly, like ups your deck's win percentage by a substantial amount, excellent. It's you just got to take the lands. Okay, well this is a little disconcerting. Um, I'm honestly a little surprised by what I'm seeing. So Palladium Mirror, we're definitely not playing. I don't think we're playing any of these cards, and we're so deep into white at this point that we're pretty committed. So I guess the question is like what to take. I don't think anybody's gonna play the Golgari deck. Um, maybe take away a piece of ramp from a potential green player. I'm not really sure. Oh, this stings. Okay, so we're gonna pick up Soul Seer and hope to not play it, but yeah, this is a little disconcerting. And at this point, there's been so many red aggro cards going around that somebody is probably in that, so I don't know. All right, so this is going to be the first pack again. It would be amazing to see Experimental Frenzy in there, but I really doubt that that's going to happen. Okay. Yeah, I think I just want the guaranteed to be good 2-drop. Heart of Kirin is actually better in. I'll pick that up. Heart of Kirin, as far as being in an aggro deck, is at its absolute best in black aggro decks in our cube because we have not one but two recursive 3-power creatures that can just pop back onto the battlefield and immediately, make it live. Huh. There's Krenko if we decide that we need to give up on the mono white dream. Um, but I don't really think I want to do that. I'm kind of into taking Mana Tithe here and hoping to wheel this 1-drop. I'm pretty sure we're in the right archetype. I mean, sometimes when you play monocolored decks, especially in a cube like ours that has such a small colorless section, in which a lot of the colorless cards, aren't particularly good. It can be a little tougher to pull off a monocolor deck because you just don't have access to the artifacts that make it easy to stitch that together. This is kind of a lackluster pack for us. SRAM's expertise is pretty good, but I definitely prefer this if you're really seriously focusing on doing a tokens thing, which at this point we're not. Stonecoil Serpent is just consistently a fine card that you can play at any point on the curve. But I'm wondering if I should be sniping something. The issue that I'm having is this being my first team draft. I'm not really sure how to read whether or not I would be cutting a teammate instead of the person next to me, assuming that like I was feeding them really high quality cards of a certain color, but they're just going in a different direction. You can't really know. I think that trying to go white-black at this stage would be an obvious mistake. Elish Norn is pretty terrifying, and we kind of just auto lose to it. And I'm pretty sure someone is playing blue-white control. So I honestly think I might just get rid of this. Well, we're seeing some black flow because I'm assuming because it got cut so hard, the person to my left is not black. Honestly, I like Sigrid. It's a fine card. But if my archetype is really open, then this is almost definitely going to come back. And it's possible that we end up just with that we were supposed to be Boros. And in the event that we were or are, although I feel like somebody's probably in red aggro. So I don't know how many pieces we're going to get, but there have been a few concerning packs here. Oh, wow. Okay. So just like Luminous Broodmoth, this is a card that came into the cube recently that just really single-handedly kind of altered the landscape for white. This card can get insanely out of hand very fast. It does just eat a removal spell sometimes, but the curve of 1 mana 2/2 into this and just attacking with a 3/3 on turn 2 that just is going to continue to get bigger. And then they're presented with the problem of, do they remove the engine or do they remove the creature that's way larger than it's supposed to be at that stage in the game? Yeah, this card is easily one of the very best cards in the entire color. Kefnet's still here, so what pick are we on 4? That surprises me. Kefnet's insane. It looks like blue-red would have maybe been a viable option at one point, but we're just snapping off the aspirant. Okay, so I could take the land here, but so far I'm extremely, extremely heavily white. I already have one, and these wield. So once we're a little deeper into the pack, I think that we'll know whether or not we want this to wheel. Kinjali's Sunwing is exactly fine. It's a fine card. It will definitely get replaced with 3-mana Thalia if we ever get that, or any number of other white 3-drops. But yeah, Venerated Loxodon can just lead to crazy, crazy turns that just close out games. So this is the direction we're going to go. Hopefully we see that Sky Marcher Aspirant wheel. Okay, well, as far as reasons to splash red, this one is pretty good. You'd kind of end up with more 4-drops. I wonder if I could also play like blue-white tempo, but I already have the lands for this. And honestly, this could just end up being a splash. This can do some pretty goofy things with the right setup, and there's just so many humans in white. And then if we end up splashing red, War Boss would be a pretty good card for us to play. We definitely don't want red 1-drops. That we do not want. Okay, cool. Wow. Golos, nobody picking it up. One thing that I got to remember. Okay. Yeah, I think at this point we just take the Stonecoil Serpent. Like I said, SRAM's expertise is good in a tokens deck, but it is generally not where you want to be for 4 mana in a white aggro deck. Gruul is wide open as usual. Gruul is actually an excellent deck in our cube. It consistently puts up results just because all the green threats are so insane, and when that's backed up with burn and then some of the, frankly excellent gold cards that Gruul has access to, it's a good deck. Just it's got that historic problem of being kind of boring. It's not uncommon to see green being heavily cut, but the Gruul gold cards going around. Okay, so I can't take both of these cards, and I think that ship has sailed. The fact that Call of the Death Dweller went around is disappointing, to say the least. Because I love that card, but I think that this is a fine 3-drop. Sigrid's good. She's an interesting hybrid card. She's not really maximized in aggro decks, but she's double white, which can make her a little awkward in mid-range decks that skew a little bit more heavily in your other color. Oh wow, blue-red was so open. Okay, I don't think anybody's gonna want this. I don't think any of these cards are like good gets if you're cutting somebody, but all right, so let's get these two back in here. This is a fine card to splash as well. Okay, well, we are set up to be Boros. It's unfortunate. I definitely wish now that I had taken Experimental Frenzy when I had the chance, especially considering that the curve is pretty low. It doesn't really look like anybody's playing black aggro like that heavily, but I'm gonna take it. Yeah, wow. It's unfortunate. Definitely feels like somebody else is in white. Um, Probably a mid-range deck because we're just not really seeing the three drops. Could just be a function of the cards that got opened too. Okay, well, speaking of mid-range creatures, Redain, again, just hammering on a theme over and over again. And I think that they've definitely heard the community at a certain point and realized that white needed to be improved like dramatically. And so they've been pushing some of these designs. And like Redain is a fair card, but I mean, there's a lot going on. This back half ends up being really relevant in certain situations, especially against, like nickel and dime um, aggro decks. It embarrasses like Krenko, for example. But then the front half is just really, really good against anybody who's trying to go over the top of you with planeswalkers or, knock you out of the game with sweepers. It's just a consistently excellent card. Definitely could have played blue tempo, but that's almost always the case. It's not a very popular archetype for whatever reason. I think people maybe feel like it's underpowered, and it's possible that we just don't have enough cards dedicated to it. I also think that we're a little lacking in the good attacking um, blue creature department. Okay, so this is actually a really interesting pick. Um, haven't seen the white planeswalkers. In fact, one, two, or actually, this makes more sense. One, two. Wow, we only have two non-creatures. Okay, I mean that feels like a reason to play Thalia, and then we're definitely gonna get one of these back. It's kind of immaterial to me which one, but yeah, I'm feeling Thalia. It's another human for Winota. I don't think we're going to end up playing Lightning Helix, even if it comes back. It's a good card, but if I do play red, I would really like to have it be basically for Winota. If we get there on three drops, like I probably wouldn't even play the War Boss, and I would just splash Winota because she can do such bonkers things when she comes down. Okay, there's nothing in here for us really because Ephemerate doesn't do anything for us. Um, Again, this is kind of problematic for me in terms of thinking about what to cut because I'm not really sure what the person to my right is doing. So I don't want to poach anything that could be useful to a teammate because I honestly just don't have a good sense of what's going on. Hmm. Oh wow, look at this. This is such an enormous bummer. I really did not think that this color was open in pack one. It didn't really seem like it to me. Maybe it was just a function of the cards that got opened. But yeah, that's just like an embarrassment of riches for black, and Rankle is just bananas. Although Halvar also quite good. Halvar is at his absolute best if you get either Bone Splitter or the Shadow Spear. It can do some really brutal things, but it's also good as just a sword. Um, well, holy, well, I don't think that anybody else is going to be doing mono white, so this is going to come back. So I'm going to take Showdown. And I think at this point, it would be really difficult to justify not playing red. Showdown is just absolutely bonkers. It's just not a reasonable card. Um, okay, let's pick up another 2-drop. Spiteful Prankster is good, but we want to stay as white as possible. Shalai is also quite good, but Clarion Spirit, especially with a curve this low, actually has the potential to make quite a number of tokens. I mean, the likelihood is we'll only trigger it like once or twice, but I still think it's a fine card to play in your aggro deck. And if we really get there, then we just might not play it. But Charming Prince, very good white card, not for an aggro deck. The bear with value is, fine. But in cube, you need your 2-drops in your aggro deck to be impactful and to start either snowballing or just generally be more problematic than Charming Prince. Yeah, black was definitely open. I think we ended up in a fine place, though, honestly. Yeah, like I said, Lightning Helix, I just don't think that we're going to take it simply because we're going to lean so heavily into white that there's a 0% chance that I'm going to be able to cast that efficiently most of the time. And we're looking like we want to be as low to the ground as possible. Okay. Nobody seems to be doing this thing. I'll just take the Blood Artist. Would love it if Ephemerate was good in our deck, but it's just not. I don't remember there being a whole lot of options remaining in the cards that we're still going to see, which is unfortunate. We did end up drafting a lot of cards that we're not going to be able to use. I guess I could bring Glorious Protector back in, but yeah, this is kind of tragic. I mean, that just kind of tells the story of the whole draft. I mean, it's possible when I go back and rewatch this video that it will be obvious that black was what was getting passed in pack 1, but it just didn't really feel like it. And after I didn't see the Midnight Reaper wheel, I just kind of assumed that somebody was going to be doing this. Now that also works perfectly reasonably well in mid-range decks. It was in a standard mid-range deck back in Guilds of Ravnica, I want to say. But yeah, this just, that's crazy that there's that many black cards, especially black cards that high quality. Yeah, it's possible that we just misread this draft. Also, I don't know how many. I don't remember which pack the Benelish Marshal is in. If I don't see that, then I'm gonna know that I misread this draft. But just seeing all the white 1-drops wheel really felt like this was the archetype to be in, and black did not look nearly this open in pack 1. We also got our hands on some of white's best aggro cards, so I'm not terribly unhappy with that. Well, the Marshal didn't come back, which is shocking to me. That might have been a snipe. So it's possible that I just was supposed to take that.